feed his countrymen, but after meeting Axel, he was reconsidering being a fisherman. Being a mechanic seemed like an interesting career. Constantly solving puzzles and working with machines appealed to Lars, though he hoped he could figure them out with fewer nicks and burns to his arms than Axel had.
"Is something stuck in the propeller?"
Lars asked.
"Sounds like it, but no. Not as far as I can tell," Axel replied. "The captain can feel the ship being sluggish even though we dropped the net, so he's looking for a problem. That makes sense to you?" "Sure, yeah,"
Lars agreed.
"But he is looking for problems when I have found the solution," Axel revealed with a wink.
"What's that?" Lars asked, impressed as always that Axel could figure out the inner workings of a machine so quickly.
"They dropped the net, and now the engine is struggling. What could be slowing us down?" Axel asked.
Even Greenhorn Lars knew the answer to that one.
"Fish!"
Axel nodded and took out a radio. He yelled something into it that was unintelligible to Lars, but the captain obviously understood. Orders came over the speakers, and other members of the crew emerged, saying good morning or cursing it, as they preferred. This was Lars's favorite part of the day, when the ship transformed from an object into a sort of superorganism. Everyone went about their jobs, getting into position, opening hatches, readying their cargo hold, battening things down. Hell, even pissing off the side of the ship in preparation to bring in another catch. Lars still felt like an extra finger that nobody needed, but after a few weeks at sea, he had at least learned where he could get out of the way. You really only had to be knocked into a cargo hold filled with fish one time before you made sure never to stand in the way again. After a moment, the entire crew stilled, ready for the net to come up. But it did not. Lars looked back at Nils, who was angrily shouting at the controls of the winch.
"I thought it normally took longer to fill a net,"
Lars remarked. Axel sucked his teeth and nodded.
"Normally it does, but even a full net shouldn't give the winch this much trouble."
Now that Axel had pointed it out, Lars heard the trawler laboring to pull the net up. He had heard it labor before, but only when the nets were actually out of the water. He still couldn't even see the top of the net. Had they snagged a whale? Obviously, that was impossible. The nets were designed to avoid catching whales. It was only a fancy in Lars's head because he was, as the others repeatedly told him, a bit green behind the ears. Already, much of the crew was cheering. A huge haul this early in the morning meant they might spend the rest of the day heading back to shore for a larger-than-expected payday. Nothing wrong with that. But even a larger haul should not have troubled the trawler so. Lars had been working with Axel enough to have some idea what the machine was capable of. It should sound like this only if the line was snagged. No sooner did Lars think this than he glanced at Axel, who shrugged.
"Line's not snagged. Nils may be an old fart, but he knows how to work the machine."
Nils fiddled with the controls, trying to rectify the situation. Then, suddenly, the trawler resumed moving at normal speed. The boat lurched forward, and the net raced up from the depths of the sea. The preemptive cheers for a large catch faded as the boat shifted back and forth beneath the seamen's feet. It had been laboring to both move and pull in the net, but now it was moving along fast as ever, the trawler unbothered. The crew, though, was not so quick to forget. They inched closer to the side of the boat where the net was submerged. Everyone wanted a look at what was going on, except Lars. He didn't want to get any closer to whatever had slowed the boat down. He knew he was being paranoid, but he strapped on a life vest. Technically, they were all supposed to wear them whenever they were on deck, but the crew didn't care, and the captain did not enforce the safety rule. Axel did not use the opportunity to roast young Lars. He watched, as transfixed as the rest of the crew, as the crane arms squeaked and rattled while the cable connected to the net spooled back up.
"I hope no one was dreaming about going home early,"
Bjorn shouted from near the side of the boat.
"Looks like you'll all be eating lunch and dinner with me again. Hardly enough fish in there for a stew."
There was some grumbling, even though Lars knew most of the crew appreciated Bjorn's cooking. Finally, the net lifted from the water.